The Siege of Alesia, Caesar versus Vercingetorix. The year is 52 BC. Gaul is on fire. Tribes once divided by rivalries have united under a single leader, a man named Vercingetorix. Tall, fierce, and unyielding, he has become the symbol of Gallic resistance against Roman conquest. For years, Julius Caesar has marched across their lands, crushing rebellion after rebellion. But now at the hilltop fortress of Alesia, the fate of Gaul hangs by a thread. Chapter 1. The Rebel Stronghold. Alesia was no ordinary settlement. It sat high upon a plateau, its steep slopes making it a natural fortress. Vercingetorix chose it deliberately, believing the high ground and massive walls would withstand any siege. Within its defenses he gathered around 80,000 warriors and countless civilians, ready for a final stand. But Caesar was no ordinary enemy. He arrived with roughly 60,000 men, hardened veterans of a decade of war. Where most generals would attempt to storm the walls or starve the enemy slowly, Caesar envisioned something unthinkable. He would trap Vercingetorix in Alesia, even while knowing a massive Gallic relief force would soon descend upon him. Chapter 2. A fortress around a fortress. Caesar ordered his legions to build lines of fortifications encircling the entire plateau. Over 15 miles of ditches, palisades, watchtowers, and ramparts rose around Alesia. Every path out was cut off. From within, the Gauls looked down in disbelief as the Romans fenced them in like cattle. But Caesar knew the danger. Vercingetorix had called for reinforcements from every Gallic tribe. Tens of thousands would march to relieve Alesia. So Caesar did something even more audacious. He ordered a second ring of fortifications, this one facing outward, stretching more than 20 miles. Rome had built a double wall, one to keep Vercingetorix trapped inside, and one to keep his rescuers out. Caesar's army was now besieging a fortress, while preparing to be besieged themselves. Chapter 3. Hunger and Desperation. Inside Alesia, desperation mounted quickly. The Gauls had not stored enough food for such a long siege. Starvation spread, and Vercingetorix made a cruel decision. The civilians, women, children, the elderly, were driven out of the gates. They begged the Romans for mercy. But Caesar would not open his lines. The people of Alesia starved in the no-man's land between the walls, a haunting reminder to both sides of what was at stake. Chapter 4. The relief army arrives. Then, on the horizon, dust rose. The Gallic relief force had come at last, perhaps as many as 250,000 warriors. They encircled Caesar's outer wall, and suddenly the Romans found themselves trapped between two enormous enemies. For days, wave after wave of Gauls hurled themselves at the Roman defenses. From inside Alesia, Vercingetorix launched coordinated attacks, striking the inner wall just as his allies stormed the outer ramparts. The Roman legions fought on two fronts at once, running from line to line, shoring up weak points with every man they could spare. Chapter 5. The Breaking Point. The climax came when the relief army launched a massive assault on a weak section of the outer wall. Thousands of Gallic warriors surged forward, overwhelming towers, filling ditches with their own bodies to make bridges of flesh. Trumpets blared, and the night sky glowed with fire. At the same time, Vercingetorix hurled his warriors against the inner wall in a desperate charge. Caesar's army was stretched to breaking point. For a moment, it seemed Rome would collapse under sheer numbers. But Caesar himself rode to the crisis point. Wearing his crimson cloak, he rallied his cavalry and hurled them into the Gallic flank. His timing was perfect. The relief army faltered, then broke into chaos. Seeing their allies scatter, the warriors inside Alesia lost heart. The great double siege had failed. Chapter 6. The End of Resistance. When the sun rose over the battlefield, the fields outside Alesia were littered with Gallic dead. The relief army was gone. Inside the fortress, silence fell. Vercingetorix knew the end had come. He dressed himself in his finest armor, mounted his horse, and rode out of the gates. Before Caesar and his generals, he dismounted, removed his sword, and cast it at Caesar's feet. In that single act, the rebellion of Gaul was finished. Chapter 6: Legacy of Alesia. The Siege of Alesia was not just another battle. It was a masterpiece of engineering, strategy, and sheer Roman discipline against impossible odds. With it, Caesar secured his conquest of Gaul and laid the foundation for his rise to ultimate power in Rome. For the Gauls, Alesia marked the end of independence. Their lands, their tribes, their freedom, all had been consumed by the empire. And yet, the story of Vercingetorix lived on. To his people, he remained the hero who dared to unite Gaul against the might of Rome. To Caesar, Alesia became his crowning glory, proof that even when outnumbered, Rome's ingenuity could bend the course of history.